I spend most of my day inside of a browser because I rely on collaborative technology so much for all of the work that I do. I use Gmail as my primary source of communication, Google Chat, video conferencing, calendar, docs, and spreadsheets. I don't know what I would do without these tools and the ability to work with my colleagues around the world if we couldn't all sign in and look at the same version, if we couldn't share and comment and change things on the fly in the way that we do with these technologies. Google Calendar keeps us really organized, making sure that we know where everybody is around the world, who can join in meetings, and so that we're not scheduling over important things like yoga classes and family dinners. This is actually how we stay in touch and are sure that we are working together in a way that doesn't infringe on everyone's around the world in different time zones. Google Docs is at the heart of everything we do as it relates to creation. We use this product when we're brainstorming, when we're developing a brief for a project that we want to launch, when we need to communicate goals across the world for different tools and technologies that we're building upon, when we want to share initiatives that we feel are important to get out to different groups around the world. Here at the school, we had a little bit of fun. We decided that we would see how collaboration works in action. And while giving a lecture earlier this week at the school in Miami, we actually opened up a Google Doc with the first paragraph of a story that I had written. I asked the students to jump on while I was talking and start to collaborate and add to the story. We came up with something quite creative, although maybe a little bit confusing to follow. One of the things we learned through this process of building the story is that when you are collaborating using these technologies where everybody has the access to edit and change and comment, it's really important to give a little bit of structure to the process. I didn't assign a creative leader for this project, so nobody was there to rein folks in and say, hey, stick to the theme. What are you doing? We're not going to add pictures into this story. And as a result, we ended up with something very creative, but it's a little bit of a collage in terms of its theme. I had a lot of fun reading it. It's not quite what I expected. Now, if you find yourself in a position like I did, where you opened up a collaborative doc and let everybody go free and do whatever it is that they wanted on it, you might end up with something at the end that wasn't quite what you expected. It's really easy to go back to your original version by simply going through our revision history. If you click on revision history, you can actually go through the entire process that this particular doc endured, seeing where people made changes, when they added in text and pictures. And if you're really not interested in all the changes that have been made, you can revert back to the original version. In this case, my original version was a very simple paragraph that we started with. Frankly, I think the story that we ended with is a lot more interesting than the paragraph I gave, so I'm not going to revert back to this first version, but you can if you find yourself in this position. The other thing that we find is quite helpful in docs is the ability to add comments. Sometimes you actually just need people to give you feedback on a story or feedback on a brief rather than editing it for you or collaborating directly with you. This is when you can actually just share the document with some of your collaborators only with the ability to comment instead of edit. They can then go and just insert a comment wherever they need to and then add some information about how they think you should change this particular part of the story. Needs a paragraph break. Let's say you wanted to open up the story so that a lot of people could edit and could collaborate, but after a while you think that perhaps you don't need any more ideas. It's really easy to change the sharing settings. You just click on the share button, you can see everyone who has access to the document, and you can easily toggle allowing them only to view going forward or only to comment, or you can delete them from the document altogether. Once it's complete, you can publish the document or you can share it via Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, or Google+. There's a number of ways to get your document out to more people. As I mentioned earlier, we really do rely on these Google Docs for everything that we do. I don't know how we would actually get work done if we had to email versions back and forth to each other. We work so quickly at Google that we'd never be able to keep track of different versions and make sure that one person wasn't editing version 3 and another person wasn't editing version 6. So now we're always on the same page, literally, in Google Docs. Another tool that we rely on all the time at Google is part of Docs, and it's Google Spreadsheets. So I could get there the same way that I would want a regular clean document. I just choose the spreadsheet option instead. I'll show you a peek at a project I'm working on right now. I'm actually working on a film at the moment, with my husband and my sister and brother-in-law. We're working on a documentary of my grandfather. Because we don't all live in the same area, we often need to share information about this project and keep track of where we are in progress. We created a spreadsheet which lists out all of the different tasks that we're trying to accomplish, along with owners for these and deadlines for when we want to complete them. We have a couple of different tabs in here so that we know what parts of the project we're trying to keep track of, and it's really helpful because everybody can do their part of the project, update it, and we don't have to keep track of a flurry of emails. We can just log into the same shared spreadsheet to know what's going on. Naturally, there's very practical uses for Google Spreadsheets, but I want to show you something a little bit more creative and possibly a fun idea that you could build upon for spreadsheets. Now, while you could certainly create that beautiful snowflake art on your own, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun if you have some collaborators to help you do it. One of the newer tools that we rely on constantly at Google is Google+. It's a great way to organize different friends and colleagues into circles so that you can share information with some people, but possibly not everyone. And embedded in Google+ is a feature called Hangouts, which is interactive video conferencing in which up to 10 people can participate in a video conference. We use these constantly at Google now, whereas we used to have chats and we would add in 5 people to a chat to try to talk about something going on, or conference dial-ins where everyone would call in from around the world. Now we just set up Hangouts so everybody can pop into the Hangout and learn about what we're doing. Inside of Hangouts, there's some new features. You can watch YouTube videos together in a Hangout. You can share your screen. So if you're working on something and you need to share it with a group, you can actually give them access to your screen so they can see it. You can pull up a Google Doc or spreadsheet that you're collaborating on and show that to the group as well. There are a number of ways that you can use Hangouts and Google+ to collaborate. The first way is pretty simple. You can invite a bunch of your team members into a Hangout so that you can work on a project together using YouTube Viewer, using Google Docs and spreadsheets, or simply screen share. You can also use a Google Hangout to get users involved in what you're doing. You can open a public Hangout and set a topic for it, and then have different people come in and talk about the topic that you've set up to discuss. Sometimes these are a little bit spontaneous. You never know who's going to pop in, but it's a lot of fun and you don't know what you're going to learn. The other thing you can do is actually host a Hangout around a topic with some scripted folks in the room who are going to have a conversation about something specific. You can then record that Hangout and share it with different people who are part of your campaign or part of your team so that they can learn from the conversation that you had. We're seeing all sorts of creative uses for Hangouts. There are chefs who are conducting cooking classes in Hangouts. We have some musicians who are hosting guitar lessons inside of Hangouts. We have people opening conversations about politics and businesses and creativity and photography simply because they want to connect with other people who have the same interests. Another tool you can think about using is called Google Moderator, which is an excellent way to source a crowd for their ideas and opinions, either on a project you're working on, or perhaps if you have somebody who's going to access this crowd via Hangout and you want to understand what it is people want to learn from this certain person that you're putting out there. We actually use this tool inside of Google all the time. Whenever we have a large meeting at Google, what we call all hands, we send out one of these moderator pages and have everybody at Google submit their questions for what they want to hear from the person at Google speaking, as well as have all of the other Googlers vote on whether or not they think these questions are good. I'm going to show you a version of Google Moderator that one of our dear friends at Sesame Street put together. Obviously, you might know him. His name is Elmo.
Oh, did you press the record button? You did? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited that you're visiting Sesame Street's YouTube channel. Hey, guess what? Elmo has a fun and really big surprise for you. Did you ever want to ask Elmo a question? Any question. Maybe something like, what's your favorite color? Red. or who's your best friend? Elmo's pet goldfish, Dorothy.
I know I've certainly wanted to ask Elmo a couple of questions, so I was excited when he decided to open up his little personality to find out what kids and adults wanted to hear from him. He did this by embedding a Google Moderator page inside of the Sesame Street YouTube channel. I'll show you what it looks like. Elmo opened it up for questions. Anybody could submit a question and say, hey Elmo, I want to understand why you love your little pet fish so much. Or Elmo, how long did it take you to crayon your apartment? Other users who might not have had a question were able to look at those asked by some of the folks around the world and say, hey, that's a great question. I'm going to vote for it. Then what Elmo and Sesame Street could do is pick out the most popular questions and have Elmo respond to them via video. So there's very creative ways to use this tool when you're engaging the public for a variety of campaigns. But as I mentioned earlier, it's also a fantastic tool to use when you're trying to understand what's going on inside of your group, inside of a school, or possibly inside of your corporation. So our mission at Google is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. Inside of Google, we also have an enormous amount of information that we're constantly trying to organize. Years ago, we all had to complete forms on Google's intranet to get any kind of presentation, a survey, a new website that we needed to get out there, uploaded into our intranet. And the team was always bogged down with different requests and sometimes took a week or so in order to publish our information on the intranet. It worked pretty well, we had enough information, but sometimes it just wasn't fast enough for us. So when Google launched Google Sites, we realized that we could easily build sites on our own and create little hubs for our teams or different projects that we were working on in order to share information and make sure that Googlers around the world had access to whatever materials they needed at that time. We now have thousands of sites inside of Google for different teams and different projects, and we can all access them quite quickly through the search that we have inside of Google available to us. I've built a number of sites for Google projects internally, as well as some of the things I've done outside of Google. You can control access to these sites. You can make different administrators, editors, or simply viewers, and you can also keep them private. They're a great way to organize projects that you're working on when you need different people to access other parts of the project. Sometimes the art director might only need to see certain files that you're working on, and the copywriter only needs to access the doc for things that he or she's working on. You can house all of those pieces of a project on the site and then give everyone access to the site so that they're able to pull the information that they need. In addition to crowdsourcing the world through a number of social media platforms, at Google we also need to crowdsource our employees. To do that, we use a very simple tool that's tucked away in Google Docs called Google Forms. They're simple to build and they're easy and free spreadsheets that help you organize data based on input from users. They're in the same spot of Google Docs where you'd open up a spreadsheet or a presentation or a blank document. You simply go and create a form. Once you've pulled up the Google form, you're able to add a number of questions in there that can be multiple choice. You can have free form answers. You can ask for one-word responses. And as people reply to your form and input their information, all of it goes on the back end into a spreadsheet. So you could use this as you're just trying to gather ideas across your team of what they want to focus on, or possibly the celebrity they want to pursue or the creative concept they want to pursue. But you could also use these forms for users when you want to get feedback from them and you want to understand what they care about and you're trying to survey them. We've seen different groups use them to understand who's bringing what to a bake sale in a local school. We've seen forms used to canvass ideas for town halls or meetings that folks want to carry on. And we think they could be used by strategy teams quite well to understand what the sentiment is around a brand, what people are thinking in relation to various marketing campaigns or initiatives. When we're putting together presentations that we need to share across the company at Google, we often rely on Google Presentations, another feature in Google Docs. You can easily put together presentations with animations, using a drawing tool, and also just simple text that you can share with multiple people, get their feedback, have them edit it, and then publish similar to how you would do with Docs or with spreadsheets. Like the other tools that are a part of Google Docs, including Docs and spreadsheets, you can upload existing presentations into Google Presentations. So if you have a PowerPoint that you're working on right now that you want to share with a group more easily, you can actually pull it right into Google Presentations, which will then make it editable and easy to share with other people that you're working with. We wanted to work with Miami Ad School because the future talent of the creative industry is here at the school. And we knew that by putting the tools and technologies that Google has to offer in the hands of the students, they would do amazing things with them and build upon our tools in a way that we never thought possible at Google.